Well, the most important part is this win-win-win, or in aligned ambitious terms, I rather talk about alignment with yourself, alignment with others, and alignment with the planet. And then for some, that might be like planet might mean animals, nature. I don't know, you can define what is your sphere of influence, right? But I would say success now starts with me. What do I find important? And if I feel aligned to what I'm good at, what I love to do, what I would love to succeed also in, or what I would love to achieve, but that it also gives me energy back me so we can build a thriving company, a successful, profitable company that does good to the rest of planet or customers or whatever you then define your sphere of influence to be again. So that is what I find successful. Welcome at another Aligned Ambitious podcast, where every recording we talk with role models about their aligned ambitious journey and how they got from usually quite a blueprint designed by someone else and living by rules that are set by someone else to their own version of what their ideal aligned ambitious life journey, career, and success looks like. And this time is going to be a little bit of a different episode, actually, because I'm the one who's going to be interviewed. And I brought someone with me who's very close to me and who takes the pleasure of interviewing me today so we get the most out of this conversation. And actually, that's not the only thing, because Ewa, who's with me here today, is also going to be interviewed in a couple of weeks' time after her own journey to a Buddhist monastery, but more on that in the episode when we speak with her. But Ewa is someone who works with me on a daily basis in the other businesses next to Aligned Ambitious that I lead. And we're going to hear more about that in a little bit. But I'm very honored that she's with me here today to do this. And Ewa, welcome. And maybe you can already explain a little bit about who you are without giving away too much for your story to come the other time.
Yes, thank you so much, and such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for trusting me with this. I'm Ewa, indeed, and we work together with Bright Green Partners and FoodTech experts, and we're both leading the businesses for the last 2 years, which has been such a journey as well, and such a journey of knowing and getting to know you. But what I do, I manage the operations of both of the businesses on a daily basis. I manage our wonderful team, and we both lead the strategies. So great to be here and very excited to go in depth on this one.
Thanks, Ewa. And instead of me introducing myself, I thought it would be more fun if you give an impression of my background, my introduction. So I hand it over today to you, Ewa.
Wonderful. And I think that's such a good start. So you're the kind of person that things just click with. So we've met, I just mentioned 2 years ago, and I felt we were on the same page from day one, which is great because we are still working together, both at VGP and FTE. And since then, you just make things easy and just lovely to be around you. And because I also have pleasure to work with you very closely these last 2 years, I can also say there has been quite a big shift in how you work. While you're still this magnetic person, I think this word is such a great one. I do feel you're calmer, you have your boundaries, protecting your energy. And energy is, I believe, a word we're going to be coming back to today quite a while. So the way you show up is somehow even more magnetic. And I really like this word describing you because we do see this journey of where you have been 2 years ago and where you are now. So I think by now everybody's excited to hear how did you get here? How did this change happen? And I think the best way is to start from the beginning of your career.
Let's do it.
Super. So,
and Ewa, before that,
yeah.
Thanks for those nice words. And just for the listeners, this was not scripted. This was not me telling Ewa what she should say, but it is nice to hear. Thank you for that.
Yes, and the magnetic, it really kind of appeared. I do have sometimes this, words appearing in front of me, and this one just came up here. It's not scripted this time. But Okay, back to the beginning. Let's start there. How did success look like at the beginning of your career? What were your dreams?
I would say there's like the point when I was studying, then there's a point when I went to do my exchange in South Korea, and there's a point when I was working in corporate. And all of those were already quite early on in my journey, and yet they had a big impact, those phases, on how I described success, because it already evolved even before I started my whole entrepreneurial journey, starting Brightkin Partners and so on. So let's go to, is it 2016 or something? Yeah, about 10 years ago, I would say. That was for me a first big turning point because I was working already next to my studies. I did my bachelor and my master's, and I was working always at one of the companies was Bosch and Siemens. I worked as a trade marketeer, and I absolutely love working there at the company with those people. I gained so much trust, and I got so much responsibility at a very young age. I was 20, yeah, about 20 years old when I got there to do my first internship, and then till 22 or 23, I worked there about 20 hours or something next to my studies. But at that point, I always thought that I was just chasing a big title and responsibility. And oh my God, if I have that responsibility, and then I would be, yeah, in charge of this, and then I could lead a team at some point. And that was not the role I was in at that point, but I was chasing that kind of success. And then I envisioned I would have this nice car and apartment in Amsterdam. And like, I was quite status and ego driven, but I also really loved what I did at that point. But it was not very purpose driven, I would say. So that was like the earlier parts what I chased back when I was younger, around my 20s. But then in that same year, I started learning a bit more about, well, I was always into food. I was a vegetarian since I was 12. But then that particular year, I started to learn a lot about sustainability and about the impact that our food system not only has on our body, but also on the planet that we live in. And I decided to try out this plant based lifestyle. And I would say that that was like a major change to everything I did in my life, not only how I felt personally. And yeah, it brought also up more values of what I wanted to then support my life and my energy towards. So that was a big turning point. But then I started my master's and I got into this quite traditional environment again. I would say about 70-80% of the fellow students were men, white, all chasing to become a consultant. Some of them maybe went more into investment, or like all very traditional roles where they were interested into. And I felt also that the whole education system I was in, I don't get me wrong, I loved every course that we had and like the stretch that you made as a student to learn, but it was very focused on very traditional set of success, basically. And that made me wonder a lot during that master's program, and my passion for the plant-based industry and what I felt I wanted to do there, as well as then my start to went off to Korea for half a year, which was like the end of my master's, where I started to think a lot about, okay, now I'm almost graduated after studying. I'm ready to dive into the food system, but what the hell am I going to do? Because I don't just want to contribute to this, yeah, traditional company who's just exploiting the planet and just maximizing profit, basically. So that was another big turning point for me, where I started to reshape what I found important, where I want to contribute to. But I got back home after Korea and I had that strong urgency inside of me, but it was really hard to actually find a job within that field. So I started I worked at two retailers where also my family has been in food retail over the last 100 years. So I had a big closeness to food retail commercialization and to food itself. So I worked there, but I didn't felt in those roles that I could again contribute to what I found important. It was very focused on keeping status quo alive, basically, and maximizing profits. And not that there is something wrong with profit. I mean, we're also for profit business, Eva, what we lead on a day to day business. But it can also be while you do other things well. Well, it's a win 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 situation. So I would say my last big moment where I changed that before becoming an entrepreneur and before my whole own aligned ambitious journey started was like, what was I chasing? When I was in corporate, I wanted to get more freedom because I was working. I left a house at 7 in the morning. I got home at 7 in the evening, working on a job that did not give me a lot of energy in an environment that did not give me a lot of energy. And I worked on topics that did not give me a lot of energy. So that felt like lose lose. I was not having time and I was not having felt a sense of connection or purpose or, yeah, something deeper there. So that was what I was chasing at that moment. I was not thinking about, oh, I will start a big company or something. I just want to work on a topic that was so close to my heart and make a living from there and do good for me, the world around me, and for the business world as well. So that was the starting point. And I would say my whole journey of what I was chasing at that point.
And that's interesting what you're saying, because especially the last couple of months, we always use this win-win-win. And I hear from you a lot the word win and how important it is to not only win on the profit part, but also other elements of life. And from the journey that you're saying, it is that you were chasing things, but it wasn't always a triple or quadruple win. There was always some kind of a lose, right? So
Yeah.
so it's also interesting to already hear this, and for those listening, this win-win-win is something that really is a driver, from what I hear every day with working with Floor. So this is interesting, first of all. And you did mention here before becoming an entrepreneur. So when was there a tipping point? Maybe what triggered it that you decided to shift?
Yeah, so I would say that that was the last point where I talked about where I was in corporate in those roles that, yeah, I felt I could not contribute my full self and I was not making the impact that could arise from my strengths and my vision also on the world. So that was the point where I decided I've been looking for a job for a few months before I got into that job. I did not find something that matched with what I really want to do. So if I want to do what I'm good at and what I want to do and where I can make a living from, I hope, I have to start this myself because I'm not going to find it elsewhere. So in 2019, so 7 years ago, around this moment, I became an entrepreneur. And that was first just as a freelancer, and I had a couple of assignments, which I found so much fun. And I got that freedom, I got their belonging part. I worked with people who had a similar view on the world, on making an impact in the food system. I got to meet so many brilliant people. And yeah, I really loved everything that I did. It cost me a lot of energy because it was stretching me a lot, but it also gave me so much energy back. So 2019 was a big change in my life.
And did anything change in what you were actually chasing after? And did it come this time?
I would say at that point, I was definitely not chasing the money anymore. So what I was describing earlier around like when I was 20 and oh, I thought I would become this millionaire and live in a nice house and nice car, etc. And just the whole status and ego, like status and ego was definitely not what I was chasing anymore. And when I quit my job, 2019, I had 6,000 euros or something on the bank. Like that was my savings, right? And I knew, okay, I had a very cheap life. I just had my rent and I had to do my groceries and I had to pay my health insurance. And yeah, okay, I feel safe. I can do this for the next 6 months. And otherwise, I worst case go back and work in a restaurant or something for a while and then figure out how I will maintain this on the long run. So the money part was definitely not influenced here. But of course, it's amazing to see that when you start and in your first month, you can already live immediately from work that you love doing, where you can contribute so much to. And yeah, then you can make a living for yourself about that as well. So I would say quite a lot of things changed in my view on what I found important over time. But then there was still more to come on the journey.
Yeah, so it seems there was still something lacking, right? There was still something you felt you can do more. What was that? Let's uncover it.
And I would say, if I, that's also where, well, not you particularly come more into the journey, but Bright Queen Partners comes into the journey because Now, 6 years ago, so in 2020, I in the end co-founded Bright Green Partners. So I was with two other partners, and we came together. We found each other's way, and we decided to not freelance or do our own thing. We better partner up and start this consulting firm in agri-food tech. Back then, it was all proteins, and we had major success from the beginning. Like we could totally ride the wave. We had major clients straight from day one, and yeah, that's also what we've been nurturing and building since then, and where we do that on a daily basis together, Eva. But I found myself a couple of times along the way quite detached from myself because if you're, I would say it comes from a couple of points. One, I was so eager to make this a success, like not just for myself, also for the team that we have, and especially when times are not that great, which we also had along those ways. Like it's impossible to have 6 years only success. There are a lot of challenges along the way. So I felt a lot of pressure for the team, but also just for the industry and to bring that impact across. So yeah, it's been a challenge in that sense. And that pressure I felt a lot on myself, and it was something I had to learn. And the other part is just that making an impact and having that win-win does not per se have to be that it's good always for you. So I was succeeding in one part, what I wanted. Like I wanted very much to have that impact. You hear that word already a couple of times now in this short conversation. But I forgot about the other part of what I wanted when I left corporate was to have more freedom and more like, what am I really good at? And what do I love doing the most? And if you're in a startup, you give everything from yourself. And along that journey, I realized that it was time to not always give everything for myself or start changing the system, the organization we had. So I could give some parts of myself that were best fitting to the organization and the clients and so on, but also to nurture myself more. I would say that those things, if I made a big change, Right Partners and starting of that to success, like we got a lot of success, but also the impact it had on me.
And thanks for sharing this. It's also a vulnerability, right? To share this kind of not always pink stories of the business, which always exists. So thanks for also sharing this. But I wonder, was there a specific moment that told you, okay, this is enough. I really need this alignment, not only ambition, here in place?
Yes, there is, but I would also be honest that I actually felt it always already when I was having vacation. So every year, summer and Christmas, it's like a big relaxing point, I would say, in consulting because clients are away. So that's when consultancies can relax also a little bit more. So for me, that was always my vacation time. And every vacation again, I was like, how can it be that I feel so exhausted again? How did I end up in the same situation again? I made this promise to myself already. But then it was summer of 23, and that was, I would say, my biggest point where I felt very low, and where I told myself, this is not going to happen in this way again anymore. And looking backwards, that was the point where my whole aligned ambitious journey started, and why we're even here with aligned ambitious now, I would say. But what changed for me that summer was that I still had one co-founder, but he also had a burnout. So I was leading Bright Green Partners by myself for the first time, which was quite a lot of pressure all of a sudden onto me and responsibility. And at the same time, my mom was just hospitalized. She was on the intensive care. So also a lot of family dynamics and a lot of stress and worries, of course, from that. And a lot of business travels all across the world. I went to New York and San Francisco for Bright Green Partners, and I love travel so much, but I was just so tired. And then in that summer, I had 1 week where I went to Croatia with my boyfriend, and I remember first day, and I was like, I'm on vacation now. I have to relax, because if I cannot relax in my vacation, then when the hell is there time for me to relax and to recharge even? And even that feeling puts even more pressure onto yourself that you can definitely not relax in your vacation. So that vacation was for me a big reflection, I would say, where I stood still and I was like, how the hell did I end up here again? And when I started acupuncture the weeks after to really get a little bit of my energy back, but also after that week of vacation, I took another week of vacation mostly, and I just laying on the couch. I canceled everything that I had scheduled with friends. I need to relax and first take care of my energy again before I can add any other part. So, not such a nice point in life, but it was needed for change to happen.
Indeed. And what did this change entail? Like, how did it start? What did you have to unlearn, maybe even?
A lot. So, I would say the biggest point is that you become aware. Well, that awareness I had before, but the urgency to actually change it was a second thing. And that was finally there. So once I had that urgency, I felt more responsible for myself. I felt more, yeah, responsible to finally change things. And that is when I started to do small things. So, for example, I started to tell on Fridays, I don't take meetings anymore. Because even if I look back on my weeks that I had before, like 23, 22, I was just in meetings back to back to back to back to back, like Monday morning till Friday evening. And then all the admin and all the thinking and like, where do we go beyond even started. If I even reflect on that, I already feel stress in my body. So that had to change for me to then have more relaxing time in the evenings and in the weekends. So I could have like Monday to Thursday, just get do work meetings, and then Friday was there for everything that was left and admin, and then that I could just have weekends and evenings at least for more relaxations. That was, I would say, point number one: set boundaries. And then other things like going more to sports and yoga to work more on myself and to do more things just for me instead of only always do things for the business. And to realize also that there's also just me, and Floor is not Bright Queen Partners. These are two separate things. That's a big thing I had to unlearn or learn and detach from each other as well. And acupuncture helped me a lot too. Also during stressful times, it really helps to release things quicker or to, yeah, boost me, or when I needed to have to go abroad and then get over jet lag quicker, or these kind of things helped a lot too.
Yeah, and I remember those Fridays off, even when we started talking, I vividly remember that Fridays are no meetings days
Yeah.
in your footnote as well. And it always stuck in my head. And tell me, were there any fears that came up in this whole process from the beginning?
Especially in the beginning, I thought, oh, but if I'm less at work or bring less input to work, then there's probably going to be less output. I really thought like input is output. That's as simple as it is. You just have to be there, do the work, done. So that was a fear and something I had to unlearn, that being there does not mean being productive or doing the best thing you can do also. Like we've experienced a lot, Eva, that you don't have to always be there. You can better go for a walk, get a better ID than just sit behind your desk and force the ID to happen. So that was a big fear and thing I had to unlearn. And also, I think another really big point is that relaxation cannot be forced and you really have to build it in. And if you're always busy, like even go along with me in this, you're busy, you're stressed, and you just feel overwhelmed. And already by the sound of my tone of my voice, how I say this, you can start to feel it. I feel it at least. But when you say like, oh, and then I'm calm and I'm relaxed, and yeah, of course I can help you there because yeah, that's most important right now because I have time for that, or I feel I have the headspace for that. It gives such a different feeling. But if you're always in this busy mode, in this rat race, or this hamster, yeah, it's quite hard to get to this calmness mode all of a sudden. So it's time you prioritize that, you set time aside for that. You really want to get into that feeling. And at first it will feel uncomfortable, but because your whole body, your whole nervous system, your whole wiring is set up for busy, and your mind will always find something to be busy about till you actively start rewiring it to be calm.
And there you go, the definition of the magnetism that I mentioned in the beginning. That's exactly it, that you are in control of actually how you react in the end. And even now, when you were talking, I felt that you really mastered this being in control. But it's not being in control of in the work sense where we in the hustling journey we always want to be in control of everything. It's exactly the opposite control, that you allow things to flow, but you choose, you control how you react. And I think that's such a great you're such a great example of this, and that's where the magnetic word came, really. So thanks for sharing this, Sway.
And maybe to add to that, Eva, it's also about guard rating, right? You set some kind
Yeah.
of like where you want it to be, but you don't have to control everything that happens within. And that was something major I had to learn also as a leader, to how to let the company evolve, how to let people also be more in control. Maybe that's actually an interesting point if I had to talk about like the concussion last year and how it changed a lot in Bright Queen Partners.
Yes, absolutely.
And maybe you
In
share
the
what your experience with that even was.
Yes, so there was actually this major point of you actually taking vacation. That let's maybe take a step back there, because I think that was quite a big change. You also mentioned that you didn't take much vacation before, and when you did, you were always on. So there was this 2025, right?
Yeah.
It was last year summer where you did take your time off, and it turned out that the team worked well.
And it
we
was 3 full weeks of vacation also.
Exactly, exactly. No fires, nothing. We actually progressed quite well in those 3 weeks, and I remember you coming back after the vacation, super relaxed, and then a couple days later, an unfortunate thing happened, the concussion. And although it was horrible, of course, I'll let you talk about this in a second, how it felt internally. In a way, the business felt calm because we knew that we can go forward because we have that kind of support from you and that handing over control to us. So that we know you can trust us, and we know that we're actually capable of doing things, because over the last months previous to that, you you made that happen, right? We made that happen together as well. So on the external, things went on. We were worried, of course, but one thing is to be personally worried and care for you, and another is the business part, right? And that is the moment that we felt like, there are these two things separate, and we can actually take care of the other one while still sending you the energy and good vibes. Let me put it this way. But what happened internally? What were you going through? What were your thoughts, fears? Tell me more about it.
And it's nice that you actually referred back to the vacation also, because indeed that was a big turning point already for me. Well, just before I went on to vacation, Eva and I sat together and we decided to start FoodTech Experts. So that's the second business next to Bright Queen Partners. And it's a year now since we launched that. And actually, I was on vacation. So we said what the vision would be, with the branding, etc. We decided on the website, but then Eva and I took that, Eva and the team took that forward while I was on vacation. So I still remember I was in Italy and I was on a beach and I saw the business evolve for the first time when I checked in. And I was already so proud. And then I came back indeed from vacation and I got that concussion. So I was excited to go back to work and to bring food tech experts and the launch further. But then life had different plans with me, to learn that I do not always have to be there for the business to not only run but also grow. And that if like, of course, there's a big part on strategy and vision that I bring in, but that's about the guard rating. And we had already said that up front before I even went into vacation. So it was actually totally fine to let control go and let others shine and show what they can do. Because a lot of great things happened in the summer, not just the food tech experts, but also a major proposal that you and another team member had written, Eva, and that we won in the end. And that was like a big success also this year and that year. But internally, I would say the concussion learned me a lot again because on the one part, well, I had pain and I had a lot of headaches, but also I felt very frustrated that I was bedbound basically and I could not do much, or like my overactive brain could not do a lot either. I was even so nauseous that I could barely walk for, I think it was 2 weeks or something. So it was for me, who for someone who's very active and always not per se active physically, but a lot of mental activity, it was quite difficult. But it was something I really had to go through to learn into those. I think it was 4 weeks, maybe, or 3 weeks. I was really out, and then it was still a recovery time of 2 months or something, where I could also not work a lot. And that later on accelerated me to take a completely different role again in the company, where you already stepped in more and more, Eva, but you even did more as well after that. And in this whole leadership transition where we're currently also in, but more on that another time. So I would say that that control part and letting other people shine, seeing that I'm not as needed as you think you are as the founder, is really good to realize. And therefore, I can now say I'm happy that that concussion happened because it also gave me a completely different opportunity in life again. For example, to start Aligned Ambitious.
Yeah, that's where it all started, didn't it?
Yeah, back in 23, and then it got accelerated by events
Yeah,
along the way to free up space, mind space, time to do this.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I wanted to shift a bit to tools and ways, practices that helped you most because people love practicalities. I do for sure. You did mention acupuncture,
Hmm.
but we have so many conversations and new things that you also teach me. Tell me more about what kind of things you brought into your life, tools, practices that help you most.
Quite a lot, I would say. So I've been also experimenting, as you know, because we talk about this a lot with the team too. But there are a couple of things that stayed with me throughout, and there are a couple of things that I just try or add on the go. So, well, the biggest part was not a particular tool, but it's just allowing for that rest and to really set your boundaries. I would say that that's number one before anyone goes and start with any of the tools I'm going to mention. But then some of the things I started to add was like journaling. I do that not every day, but across the week I do that several times. We even do that with the team a few times a week. And that really helped me to reflect how I feel or where I stand and what maybe has to adjust, because we're not very conscious beings during the day in our day to day things usually. So it really helps. Another thing is yoga, and yoga combined with meditation, I would say, because sometimes it's guided within the yoga sessions that I do. Sometimes I do a bit of my own yoga flow and meditation, but just a point where you're more in tune with your body again, and whether it's journaling or meditation, yoga. I really love those things because it is like a daily ritual, I would say, where I make time for myself and to tune into how I feel and how I have to adjust that day or that evening or that hour. So those are things that no matter where I am in the world, whether I'm in San Francisco, I attended, for example, some kind of sound bath and meditation session after Future Food Tech last year. When I'm in Thailand, I go to yoga, or it doesn't matter. Anywhere across the world, you can do this, and I love it. I'm more going to the gym so that your body gets stronger, you have more energy. That also helps a lot. More being outdoors to not just be behind your screen and to look at your phone all the time. So daily walks, and I even have a tracker to keep track of whether I do these things, because as I said, we're all humans, and now it sounds like I figured it all out. You always have days where you slip back into the habits that are not so good for you. So keeping yourself committed to things that actually help you feel better are really good. And another big thing is working more with my hormonal cycle, so my period. And we even talk about this openly also in Bright Green Partners that, okay, when we come into a meeting, we always ask, how are you? And then I tell, if I'm having my period right now, so maybe don't ask too complicated questions. Let's just focus on the
Yes.
essentials. And then we do this in 3 days, okay? So being more in tune to that also really helped me a lot to, instead of forcing my body, I now can lean more into it. So I take it more easy when I have my periods. And then when your energy builds up again, and that's the phase where I have thousands of ideas. And I think the team can also guess when I'm in that phase again, because I'm like, I have another idea and we need to talk about this. So instead of fighting it, I leverage what's given to me. And that really helps me a lot, I would say, throughout my month and throughout my year to thrive. Yeah.
Yeah, and the leverage word is important here, right? It's not about that pressure. Just like you mentioned on the vacation, pressure. Okay, now you have to rest. You have to rest. Now you have to have ideas. Now you have to have ideas. No, it's not that anymore. See, even my voice got like, oh, tasty.
The tension. Yeah.
Exactly. It's just yourself putting pressure on you when we think this way. But it's really leveraging what your body, your mind gives you, and learning to listen to it. Would that be a good way to describe it?
100%. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
all about listening to what your mind, your body, you at that moment need.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
And
think
not
that's a
listening, but also
yeah.
acting, because that's like what I didn't do before 23, right? I listened, but I did not act on it.
Yeah, acknowledged and then go away.
Yeah.
Yeah, happens very often. I know. And actually, that's a great segue to ask you, how would you define success today?
Well, the most important part is this win-win-win, or in aligned ambitious terms, I rather talk about alignment with yourself, alignment with others, and alignment with the planet. And then for some, that might be like planet might mean animals, nature. I don't know. You can define what is your sphere of influence, right? But I would say success now starts with me. What do I find important? And if I feel aligned to what I'm good at, what I love to do, what I would love to succeed also in, or what I would love to achieve, but that it also gives me energy back. Like when I'm in this sphere of the best floor, basically, then I can have way bigger impact on the others around me. So we can build a thriving company, a successful, profitable company that does good to the rest of planet or customers or whatever you then define your sphere of influence to be again. So that is what I find successful.
And about decisions, then, do you make them differently now?
More intuitively, I would say. So of course there are metrics that we look at, like we look also at financial parts. So that's not really intuitive. It's like, what do the figures tell us? But at the same time, something, not, figures don't always tell you everything. So if we have a really strong feeling about it, and sometimes the feeling was good, sometimes the feeling was not so good, that is also how it works. But that's how we make decisions way more often. And I do that on my personal life, like it's without checking in with yourself. That's more a feeling, right? And sometimes it can also be a knowing, but it's not, oh, my Apple Watch told me today that. No, the Apple Watch can tell that, but maybe you feel something else. And that goes the same for business decisions. And I would say it goes for everything. So maybe practically speaking, with aligned ambitions, it's not that so many people told me like, oh, Floor, you need to tell me about how this works or write a book or something. No, I just got the idea and I felt the calling to do this. It was a very intuitive knowing, I would call it. And to get to that stage, you have to be very relaxed and very in line and in tune with yourself. So that's how I make decisions these days.
Yeah, that was my actually second question. How do you get to that stage of being aligned with yourself and intuitive? You said yes, being very relaxed, but do you have any ways?
If I'm not relaxed, well, there are two things I would say. So one thing is like this ID machine, my head, my brain. I'm not even sure if it's my brain, but I just get IDs all the time. So that's like depending on the mood, how I feel. But I ask the whole day, help me on this, help me on that. And then all of a sudden, the ID comes up. But it's not that I do this while I sit behind my desk. Sometimes it is, but it can also be a walk, or maybe I have a conversation and the person says to me, oh, have you thought about this? And then so inspiration can come from many ways, but it's all about being actively thinking about the topic, and then it will come one way or the other without forcing it. It's also okay if it doesn't come. So that's one thing. But I would say like the bigger topics in life is more of a, maybe gets a bit more spiritual, but almost a meditative state. So because of all the yoga, journaling, meditations, conscious walking, like I walk and then I focus on my feet, for example, or on my breathing, I get to this state quite a lot of times in the, I would not say day, but in a week. That's why I feel so calm. And I would say that that helps to really get new ideas to like for that white space to evolve in my head instead of like improvement for something I'm working on. So it is something you can train, but it takes time. Like you won't, if you're now in this rat race where I talked about earlier and you want to get to this mode of operation tomorrow, maybe it works for you, but it definitely did not work for me. And last thing on this is you have to really practice and take time for it. So it, yeah, and trust it. Maybe that's the most important part, because some people will say, oh, that's just my brain or bullshit. You have to trust also what comes up and act on it, and then you will see that you will nurture it and therefore become stronger. And that's how I can now make proper decisions on it. But I did not listen to my intuition the years before at all. And that's why it also was not so strong, I would say.
It does seem that you're using more your senses, not only one or two, but actually all five. Also, when you mentioned this touching the leaves or walking barefoot, right? Like actually being within nature, touch, smell, sight. It feels like it helps as well to
And I would
tune in.
even say the sixth sense, right? Whether you call it your third eye
Yes.
or like, that's also what this is about. Like, what's
Yeah.
not to be seen or felt or can also help you. But I know not everyone's up for that, but for me, at least, I'm quite a spiritual being, human, so it helps also.
Yeah. Okay, but what is still a work in progress
So
for
much,
you?
Eva, you know that. Not only in Bright Green Partners and FoodTech Experts, we're still so ambitious, but for me, in a different way than before. But maybe we could talk more about that when we have your conversation in a couple of weeks, also after your Buddhist monastery experience. So that's for sure where we're still very ambitious on. And then the other part is also aligned ambitious. So I would love, love, love for this movement to grow, because I see like this is so close to my heart because I've been there and I see so many people, each and everyone their own journey. Like some are experienced burnout or depression, or they just don't care anymore, or they might be in an okay situation, but they feel there's more for them or something that's nicer. So from a human perspective, but also from a world global perspective, there's so much. If I look around at the world around me, I sometimes just get sad by what we've created. And it's all just systems that we as humankind created. And most people don't see that we can change them. I don't like to think in restrictions, boundaries. We've created those own systems. So that means we can also change them. But it takes time and it takes people and more people to grow the wave, to grow that movement. so that change eventually is unstoppable. And some will not like that, and a lot of people will like the way where we are going to, where we talk about this win-win-win. So it's not only shareholders profiting for something or the CEO profiting for something from something, but it's actually everyone benefiting from a scenario. And that's my big dream, and also why we're here with Aligned Ambitious, to grow that movement so that the change is inevitable.
I love that. I love that. And I see myself in that future. I definitely do.
You're already part in it, Eva, so
Yes, yes, of course. And continuing.
yes.
And continuing.
And maybe the last thing, like on a personal note, because this is all business, of course, I would also love to become a mother in the near future. So I'm also here to show that, like, that's my own journey, but it's also part of being aligned ambitious, right? Because it also changes how I lead or dedicate my time or what I find important in life. So I'm really excited for that journey ahead, like in the years to come, what will happen on that front and how it will influence work and aligned ambitious 100% as well. So yeah, I'm excited for what's to come.
Yes, me too. One more question. If you could go back and speak to the version of yourself that was definitely successful but not yet aligned, what would you tell her?
Lately, I'm using a mantra to myself, which is it's all just a game, it's all just an illusion. And I think for someone like me back then who was taking everything so serious, like it felt almost like it was a life or death experience with all the responsibilities I'd put on myself. So if you just think of it, it's just a game. It's an illusion. It's all gonna work out one way or the other. Worst case, it doesn't go as I planned. Maybe there's a better scenario waiting for me. Maybe I have to go through this and then there's a different scenario that I actually like in the end more as well. Think of all the examples I talked about today. I think that would have taken a lot of pressure off, even though I might not have believed it back then. But if someone in my shoes now tells this to my younger self, I might have believed her. So I hope it does for the listeners as well.
Yes, definitely. And maybe as a closing, is there anything, a question or a prompt for journaling or just for thinking through that you would like to tell the listeners to reflect this week?
Given that it's summer at this point and most people have a little bit more time, but if you're in this busy mode all the time, then still you will find something this summer to do and to keep yourself occupied with, even though business and life might be a little bit calmer and meant to be enjoyed. So my request to you or my prompt would then be, where can I just create 20% more space for myself, what I care about, what I find important, what I need at this point? And I'm 100% sure you will find that 20% of time, because you can, if you start prioritizing, you will always see that there's something you can deprioritize. So where can you do that, and where are you gonna spend it to? Maybe read that nice book, not the complicated book, but just a nice one, or maybe just go for a walk or go to the beach, have fun with friends. Just enjoy it a little bit this summer.
That's such a nice message, and definitely will take it for me as well. The 20% is in the end nothing, and it could give you so much, I would say. Yeah. Well, Floor, thank you so much for sharing all of this with me and for trusting me again to guide you through, to talk with you for the last 40-ish minutes. I feel that in a way, our conversation is a recipe to exit this hustle culture that we live in today, that a lot of people, not us anymore, but a lot of people live in today, and really become aligned while still staying ambitious. So thank you again, and I hope everyone also enjoyed this conversation with Floor.
Thanks, Eva, for guiding me through, because I know if I would just be talking here for 40 minutes about my story, I go into a certain direction and then I don't come out of that direction anymore. So I'm really happy that you helped me guardrail the conversation today. And as said, in a few weeks' time, Eva is going to a Buddhist monastery in, it's Nepal, right, Eva?
Yes,
Yeah,
Nepal.
for 10 days. And Eva is quite a aligned, ambitious example as well. Obviously, otherwise we wouldn't be working so closely and aligning so well with each other. So I'm really excited to, after you return, once you had some time to reflect on everything you learned and seen and experienced there, to sit down with you and record the next conversation. So definitely stay tuned for that. Another role model that we then have in the podcast. Meanwhile, there are two events coming up for Aligned Ambitious. So if you feel like you want to be more closely connected to this movement and meet other people who are in the community or in their own aligned ambitious journey, then in Amsterdam we have our very first live event scheduled on the 29th of August. So you can meet with other people in person. There's going to be an inspirational speaker on her own aligned ambitious journey and what it is to be alive and to really lean more into that. More on the website, so you can find that in the show notes also. And then there is also the next Aligned Ambitious Support Hour, which is happening on the 9th of September, where you also meet with the other community members. And there's a case that we're going to discuss, so you can actually work on your own Aligned Ambitious journey and path forward together with other community members. So that's coming up. Meanwhile, I hope you find lots of inspiration and you can join the group chat where we discuss everything about an aligned ambitious life, career, and success, and so much more together. So I warmly welcome you to join us and see you next time again.